Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be reviewing some miniatures that were sent to me by Crippled God Foundry. So, I'll let you know what I think of them in this honest review. My name's Justin, and welcome to Harry Hobbies. So, obviously when Crippled God Foundry reached out to me to review their miniatures, I was super excited to do so. I've never done a review before, and I've certainly never done one on my YouTube channel, so this was a first, and I was very excited to do it. Naturally, I wanted to be as honest with everyone as possible, so I was fully ready to completely tear apart these minis, look for every single mold line I could find any joints that didn't fit together perfectly or any little imperfections. But honestly, I didn't find much at all, and I really just found myself getting lost in the miniatures themselves. So, obviously, when you get sent a big box of miniatures, you pick the biggest one and start building that one first. And that's exactly what I did. And it was about halfway through building him when I realized there was something missing. Well, they forgot to send me a piece to the demon, but luckily they're also doing STL files for 3D printing in their Kickstarter. So I reached out to them, they sent me the sword, I printed it. We're just gonna have to do that demon in a different video. Well, that's okay. That just means I had to start with a different demon. And to be honest, this one ended up being my favorite out of that whole box. So once he was built and glued onto the base, I started searching around my work table for any extra bits and little rocks and things I could find. Glued some stuff on, a little bit of scenic glue here, and then a quick dunk in some sand. Although you'll notice that bald spot toward the front where I had an idea to make some spilled water that turned out pretty cool, and we'll show you here in a little bit. For the skin, I started with some grays. I wanted a really sort of ashy tone feel to it, so I kept with the dark grays and some mediums and built up just a little bit. And then I took a relatively bright red and started building up some layers on the claws and the extra wing bits, spikes. I'm not quite sure what those are. Well, they look super cool though. I just started building up some layers, and then we moved to the regular brush, and I started with a mahogany brown to base coat all the little spikes because I know there's a lot of reddish tones in there, and I'd be able to build up to the same red and kind of get the same sort of effect. I took a regular kind of flesh tone, a little off-white, and just kind of hit the teeth really quick. And didn't take too much before this guy was done. So I started slapping some more brown right there on the base. And I went and hit all the extra pieces with a little bit of gray. Then in that water spill area, I just took some blue and painted that on, and a little bit of black too. I hit the whole thing with a wash, and then I took Dimensional Magic by Mod Podge and started filling in the liquid, and it came out fantastic once it was dry. Second mini up is this very cool mantis warrior of sorts. Some kind of a rock demon with a bug head and a bitchin' staff. He had a really cool base already, so I didn't have to do anything, and it had bone fragments and pieces of what looks like a wing on it. That was really cool and fun to paint. So I started him with a little bit of a zenithal highlight, but I really focused that white in a lot of areas because I knew I was going to hit it with this light green, and I wanted that color to just be super bright. So next I came in with a pretty medium brown shade on all the rocky areas on his back and on his arms and on the tail too. And then I switched to a darker one to try to add that extra bit of contrast to make it all really kind of stand out. Next, I quickly hit any of the leftover bits with this bright orange paint. And then I went straight to doing the base. Quick paint job on this guy just to make all the details and the features pop. But I ended up really liking it. Here I took some lighter brown, I believe it's a khaki, on the spiky tips just to kind of highlight them. And a little bit on the tail too, bring it out a bit. And then I took the Agrax Earthshade and hit a couple of the details and tried to make the contrast on the rocky parts stick a little more. Painted some beady black eyes and a nice perfect white dot, and this bad boy is ready to go. So the third miniature I did feels like he's the boss of the whole level. This particular guy I wanted to challenge myself to do only with my airbrush. So I started with a bit of a zenithal, and then I really just started adding some purples and pinks to really kind of keep the kind of ghostly essence of him. At least that's how I envisioned he would be. Then I took some just straight white and added some highlights on a lot of those spots to just make it glow that much more. I came in on the armor plates with some dark blue. And then just a few highlights on it. And then of course some more straight white just to bring it over the top. So then I decided to take some black and really kind of pump those shadows a bit before getting some flesh tone and hitting his flesh. And then I used that as a base to get some pre-shades for all this green on the spirits that he's standing on. And I wanted those to be very, very vibrant. And then after the green, I took some yellow just to bring that saturation a bit more, and this is how he turned out with only an airbrush. In the end, I'm flat impressed with these minis. The casts are great, the resin is light and easy to work with, no warping in the joints like some other resin cast minis I've worked with, but more importantly, the sculpts are gorgeous. Being a big monster and demon fan myself, I loved the originality of the monsters. The Hades model had this intimidating looming presence which became more apparent the more I worked on him. The other characters, they just really made me imagine the world that they try to protect. It really felt like Crippled God Foundry had sent me a complete D&D campaign with heroes, a villain, some monsters they might encounter on the way, and each really made my imagination roam. Even though I didn't get to paint all of them for this initial review, I'm super stoked to paint them for a follow-up video. The amount of miniatures in their Kickstarter campaign also is pretty impressive, and there are many, many more that I would really like to get my hands on. Hi, thanks for watching all the way to the end. Huge thanks to Crippled God Foundry for sending me some minis to paint and putting their trust in me to give an honest review of their miniatures. And everything that I've told you was 100% my opinion, and I loved it. I loved it all from start to finish. It took me a long time to kind of get through them and keep up with other stuff too, so I hope you enjoy. And please hit the subscribe button and stick around because I've got a lot more of their miniatures to paint up for the future. So thanks again.